Okay, here we are in the new Pipistrel Alpha Trainer aircraft. This is our first flight, and we're taxiing out now at Adashina in Slovenia for a maiden flight of the aircraft. This one here is a pre-production model. It is the final one before they enter into serial production. This one has completed all of its initial flight testing, and it's ready to go. Traffic Adashina, Pipistrel Alpha 1 taxis for runway 27. Okay, everything's conventional layout. In the Pipistrel, we've got the large instrument panel at the front here with a good selection of instruments. We've got the new electric trim system here on the instrument panel, which is really terrific. I'm just taxiing out here now. I'll hold short of the runway because we have another aircraft taking off by using the brakes. I must say they're quite good. I'll just do an ignition check here.
I just went out of 2 and taking off to 7.
The handbrake is sufficient to hold the aircraft. While we do the run-up checks, I'm just going to enter and backtrack. Traffic Adashina, Pipistrel Alpha 1, entering and backtracking runway 27. Okay, we're going from neutral flap to 1 stage of flap for takeoff, and we use 2 stage of flap for landing. The airstrip here is, it's very wet, it's long grass and it's been raining for a few days, so I expect to have a little bit longer ground roll than what I normally would expect in this type of aircraft. This one is fitted with the Rotax 80 horsepower, and it has a fixed pitch propeller. This one is a little bit coarser than what will be supplied with the normal aircraft. With this propeller pitch, the aircraft exceeds the 120 knot B&E limitation for LSA aircraft. Okay, we're lined up and ready to go, so introducing throttle slowly. There's no tendency to yaw or do anything crazy in this plane, it just tracks straight down the centre line. The nose wheel is getting a bit light now. We're on the mains and we're off. So we've got full throttle, 1 stage of flap. Climb rate, I'm doing 50 knots and I'm climbing at just over 1,000 feet per minute. We can see here, 1,000 feet for 50 knots. And we're only revving to 5,000 RPM in this configuration. I'm just going to put away 1 stage of flap and a 2nd stage, so we're going to negative. Pipistrel aircraft quite often fly much better in negative flap when you're climbing than they do in 1 stage of flap. Everything is quite nicely balanced, even though it's a rough day in the valley here. Climb rate now going to negative flap has increased to 60 knots, or approximately 60 knots, and we're still doing over 1,000 feet per minute. I'm just entering into a left-hand turn now and continue to climb up over the airfield. There are a couple of other aircraft in the vicinity, and we need to be aware of those. Fairly cool day today, and the cabin heat is on. I'll just turn that off now. Climb angle is impressive. It's quite a steep climb angle. Again, there's no stick forces. This new electric trim system is nice. Before, the trim used to be located down here, and now it's been relocated up onto the instrument panel. We're passing through 2,000 feet. I'm just going to slowly start to throttle back. check for visibility for other aircraft in the area. Then we'll trim the plane. So I'm just going to put in a little bit of nose trim. This is a new instrument, so it'll take a little while to get the feel of it. But we're still climbing, still doing 800 feet a minute up. Even though it is fairly turbulent, it's still quite an enjoyable ride. Okay, I've got the aircraft now. We're just nicely powered back. We're doing 80 knots. I'm just going to check its roll rate. So we're clear left and we're clear right. So I'm just going to do a bit of a turn and come back again. I must say that the stick pressures are nice and light. They're much lighter than, say, the Virus SW. It's only really requiring one finger pressure to hold in a turn. I've let go completely and the aircraft's maintaining 85 or 90 knots. There's no tendency for the nose to drop, so you don't have to really pull back on the stick. So the roll rate is very, very nice, and it's well coordinated. It's very, very well harmonised. I'm just going to let the aircraft go straight. I've got some birds in front of me here. I'm just climbing up on 3,000 feet. The weather in the area is not great, so it is fairly bumpy. Okay, I'm just going to pull up on the stick. We're up to a fair angle, let go. The aircraft is rolling over the top. We're back to 55 knots, 60 knots, 80 knots. And the aircraft is straightening out, 85 to 90 knots. Okay, and now we've levelled out again. So it's got no tendency to continue porpoising or getting any more aggressive. I'm just going to introduce some throttle now, and we'll see what the high-speed cruise is like. So 5,000 RPM. I'm going to put in a little bit of forward stick. We'll see our VSI come down. We're climbing at still 200 knots, 200 feet per minute, I should say. A little bit more forward trim. Just going to slowly throttle back. Okay, the aircraft is sitting right on about 108 knots, which is the published book figure, and we're doing just over 5,000 RPM, 5,100 to be exact. As we're heading off down the valley here, we're still clear. I've got the Mediterranean off to my right, the Alps behind me, and quite a lot of weather around. The forecast for later today is pretty ordinary weather. Okay, I'm just going to turn around now and we'll try and look at how the aircraft performs in the stalling configuration. So we'll turn around before we get too far away from the factory. I'm going to bring the trim back to neutral. I must say the trim works very well. It's the first time I've used this system. Okay, we're at 4,000 feet, which is about 3,500 feet above ground level. I'm going to throttle back to idle. And I'm going to stay in negative flap, and we'll just see what the aircraft is like in stall configuration. Okay, we're right back on the throttle. We're showing an indicated 50 knots and still slowing down. I'm going to introduce a bit of trim just to relieve the stick pressure, which is only light. It's barely a finger of pressure. Okay, we're back down now to 45 knots. I'm going to continue to pull back on the control stick and let the aircraft slow. 40 knots, we're under 40 knots. We're indicating now about 35. I've got the stick right back, and the aircraft is really just mushing in. It's doing a descent of around 400 feet per minute. I'm going to put in some flaps. So now I'll go to one stage of flap. The stick pressure has increased slightly. I'm pulling back. I'm under the indicated 35 knot stall speed. Pulling back, pulling back. We're right up near 30 knots. There's a lot of airframe buffeting, but there's no tendency for a wing drop at all. I'll release the control stick pressure, and now I'm going to introduce full flap. The aircraft is currently showing 40 knots, 35 knots. Now I'm going to continue pulling back. Bit of airframe buffeting coming in. We're indicating less than 35 knots. Or actually less than 30 knots, I should say. We're closer to 25. The aircraft is not nose high. It's staying in a fairly level attitude, surprisingly, and I can just feel a very slight pop. There we go, a bit of buffeting. So all in all, that's very good. Okay, I'm going to introduce some power. And we're going to try our stall at 4,000 RPM. We're currently in neutral flap, so I'm going to put in one stage of flap. I'll let the aircraft slow itself down. Very nose high attitude, we're currently at 35 knots. A lot of airframe buffet coming through, 30 knots. We're getting a very nose high attitude now. There we go, 25 knots it was indicating, and just the very slightest wing drop. So again, I'll put it right back up. We're coming back, 25 knots indicated. Lots of buffet, let go and roll. We're pretty much not doing anything. Here it's very, very stable, but it will still give a student an indication of stalling an aircraft. Okay, we're going to go to neutral flap. I've got the aircraft at idle. I'll just trim a little bit of backstick. We'll see how we go for gliding. Just put a touch more RPM in because we dropped down below 1600 there. The idle in this particular aircraft is set low, so they can do all the complete testing for the flight manuals. We're indicating here between 45 and 55 knots. The airspeed indicator is bouncing around a little bit. Of course, it is a fairly buoyant day with lots of turbulence. We should be descending, but at the moment we're in good thermal or lift activity, so we're actually going up. But I suspect the descent rate at this speed would be around 300 feet per minute. I'm going to go to two-stage of flap. Okay, I'm indicating 45 knots now. The aircraft is trimmed nicely, indicating just under 40 knots. And I have an indicated vertical speed of around 200 feet per minute sink, which is quite good for the conditions we're in now with a bit of lift around. Okay, I'm going back to neutral and into negative flap, accelerating on. Reposition the trim back to neutral. And just try some more turns so to the left. That's about a 60-degree turn. Very little stick pressure. You can see I'm hands off and the aircraft is just sitting there going around. The centre of the windscreen is staying pretty much perfectly positioned on the horizon. The aircraft does not have a tendency to steepen or flatten out. That's really amazing. Let me just go back the other way now to the right. A clear right. So entering into the turn. All in all, this is a very responsive aircraft, and the controls are they're light, but I wouldn't say they're light to the stage of being dangerous. They're light to the stage of being very easy to fly the aircraft without any fatigue. Again, I'm not really doing much to the controls. I'll come back to an idle. We're going to see what the aircraft is like now in side slipping. So we'll throttle back. I'll keep the RPM at about 2,000. We're back to 50 knots. I'm going to go to neutral flap. I'm going to slowly introduce a little bit of left rudder and right control stick. We're currently showing 50 knots and a descent rate of around 500 feet per minute. So pretty much full rudder, quite a bit of aileron, and descent rate is well over 1,000 feet. Very, very well coordinated. Back the other way. Very coordinated. The only thing you need to do with side slip is just a little bit of backward stick pressure. So we'll just run that again, straight and level. Side slipping to the right. And through, side slipping to the left. Just a little bit of backward stick pressure. Back to neutral. This is a lovely aircraft. I think anybody that owned this particular plane would be more than satisfied with it. Even though it's been marketed as a training aircraft, it's still an immense satisfaction to fly. And I'm sure would make a great personal aircraft. Introduce some speed and head over towards the factory and airfield. Okay, I'm currently overhead the airstrip now. Just going to position myself to join circuit and do probably a missed approach on the first one, just to get the feel of the approach and sink rates for the aircraft, descending down to 20 feet above the runway. Keeping a good lookout because I know there's two other aircraft in the air at the moment. So we'll throttle back to an idle. And we can give our radio call. All traffic at Ashina, good afternoon. Motor glider Alpha 1 is joining crosswind for a missed approach, runway 27 at Ashina. I'm going to bring the trim back to neutral. That's it. We're overhead the airfield. We don't have the benefit of air brakes in this aircraft, but even now, at 80 knots, I'm showing about 900 feet per minute sink rate with flaps in negative position. If I choose to, I can lower the nose to the aircraft at idle, showing well over 1,000 feet a minute now at 120 knots. So even in this configuration of aircraft, it is extremely easy to lose height quickly. I'll just slow the aircraft down as we turn downwind. Do that by simply lowering the, raising the nose. We'll let the aircraft slow down. Okay, I'm at the flap speed now, so I can go from negative to neutral. I'm going to go from neutral to one stage of flap, just as we come through on 55 knots. A little bit of backward stick pressure, so I'll pull the trim backwards just a little bit, perfectly balanced. I'm now at 50 knots, which is our cross the fence speed, and showing about 500 feet per minute sink rate. I'm going to introduce second stage of flap. Aircraft has slowed down back to about 45 knots, which is a bit slow, so I'm just going to relieve some of this backward stick pressure. And we're not going down very quickly here. We're in some lift, and actually for the moment there we're gaining height. Aircraft again is showing 45 knots in this trim position, just up to 50 knots and 500 feet per minute sink rate. And again, showing lift. Must be some great thermal activity around the area today, even though it is very overcast. Okay, I'm lined up with runway 27 now. Little bit of drift because of the wind. And basically just let the aircraft sink by itself. I am a little bit high, so I'm going to put on a little bit of side slip one direction. So side slipping with full flaps is completely predictable, and it's showing me a good sink rate actually, over 1,000 feet per minute. Because I don't know what's happening here, but I'm in an amazing lift at the moment. Lined up with the runway. Showing about 55 knots. I can hear a little bit of squealing out of the wing tape. When the ailerons or flaperons, when they're down in the down position, the seals across the top can vibrate a little bit, and they cause a little bit of a light pitched squealing sound. Again, this is just beautiful. I'm at 50 knots, sinking rate of around 500 feet per minute. Again, perfectly aligned with the runway. A few of the people at Pipistrel are out watching the flight. I'm just going to slowly introduce a little bit of throttle just to warm the aircraft engine back up again, reduce our flap settings. Go back to neutral and then down to negative flap. I'm going to put in a little bit of throttle and do a circuit with a landing this time. So again, I've made no changes to the position of the trim, but still very, very light stick forces. So to do a go around, it's barely just one finger pressure. Even with full length flaperons, the aircraft is amazingly responsive with one stage or even full flap in position. Much lower on this time, which is good. We'll have to probably add a little bit of power to make it to the airfield. Traffic at Ashina, Alpha 1 is final, runway 27, touch and go. Okay, that's great. I'm on one stage of flap. I'm now going to second stage of flap. I have not made any adjustments to the trim of the aircraft. We have a factory in front of us with quite a tall chimney right on the centre line of the runway. Make life interesting in very turbulent weather. I'm just going to slowly introduce a little bit of throttle just to make sure I clear the chimney and maintain my 50 knots. Just passing over the chimney and factory now. A little bit of buffeting from the wind, which is today about probably about 10 knots. The aircraft is very, very stable, requiring only very little movement. And a nice flare. I'm showing back to 40 knots. That's great. Touchdown at 35. Going to put one stage of flap away. Introduce throttle. The aircraft is off basically immediately, even on this very wet grass. Again, I've made no adjustments to the trim settings, so I've just got the tiniest bit of pressure holding the stick forward. I'm going to put the flaps down from one stage to negative and just throttle the aircraft back.